For the order, this regular meeting of the Senate Healthcare District Board of Directors. Present, we have Rich, Kevin, Carrie, and myself, and Shelley unfortunately is not feeling well, so she won't be here today. Go ahead and do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you much. That brings us to item number 2, additions, modifications, deletions from the agenda. I would just like to ask that we table number 13 for now. The Citizens Oversight Committee pending further input from our legal team regarding the requirements for that. So hopefully we will have that on for our next meeting. And with that, I would like to accept a motion to approve the agenda with that change.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, Ken?
Aye.
Sherry? Aye. Rich?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Thank you. Public comment, we didn't receive any public comment in advance. Anyone here have any public comment or online? Or on the phone?
Nope.
Hearing none, we will move on. Number 5, approval of the July 19th, 2024 special board meeting minutes. Board members, we had any questions, comments, or motions approved.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ken. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rich. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Sherry? Aye. And I'll vote aye. That brings us to number 6, approval of the July 25th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes. Same deal. Any questions, comments, motion? Thank you, Sherry. Do I have a second?
Second.
You Ken. All in favor, Ken?
Aye.
Sherry? Aye. Rich?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. And moving right along to our staff reports. John, looks like you have a verbal report first.
Yeah, just a verbal report. Obviously, a lot has been going on. I want to draw attention to our property. Construction has begun. They're in the, what they call the, I just had it the other day, they use a term for it, ripping, whatever. They're taking out grubbing. It's called grubbing. So they've got all the equipment out there that they're doing their initial cut. They took off the top elevation. They will be finishing the grubbing tomorrow. Grubbing is basically trying to get all the organics up. And then they're doing compaction testing. That'll be available for next week. And it looks like next week they're going to do primary grading. So we are going to be moving right along. I've been observing, I think it's right outside my window. So good work, good dust control. So everything's really good. Hard hats and PPE. So I've asked the contractor to order hard hats, 10 additional hard hats. They're going to be stickered with Seneca. I just want to let you know that for the board, if you want your own, or if you just want to keep it in the trailer or keep it in the office when you come over to walk the property, you'll have it either here or you can keep it in your car. Just let me know how you want to work that.
I still have my hard hat from Groundbreak.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we just replace the stickers? on our
Yes, you can,
existing-
because that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Keep those hard hats. We'll put new stickers on there. You will need a vest when you go on the property. So a lot of safety and stuff is going to be observed. Obviously, it's just during the construction phase. So feel free, occasionally to drop by and take a look. What's going on. You're able to walk out there with the superintendent or one of us.
How's the flow working with the change for where you can enter and exit from the building, from the clinic building?
Thus far, I haven't heard any big issues. The staff was prepared for the back. The biggest thing is administrations doesn't have access and won't have access until they can complete that out. So we are, Chelsea, we are guiding people to the front office, and then they're gonna be escorted back to administration. Deborah, do you have any information?
Yeah, the walk-in clinic, all of the employees there have been advised to give me a call, and then I walk and greet the people. A lot of times I'm bringing them back and then walking them back to the clinic so they know how it is.
Okay, additional signage will be going up on this gate. In addition to the required signage, but we're also gonna put danger, peligro, construction zone. It'll be locked up on the weekends with a chain link with a cable. So it looks like it's pretty well secured.
Caution tape and stuff for the front of that, or the new building. They should have the fence up and have it like walkable by that time, but if not, we do have a
It's
caution.
interesting, in the next week or so, you want to come out there, they've got it staked out. They actually have the perimeter staked out. So it's kind of interesting to see for me, it was really interesting to see where the building's actually located on the property, which is really, I'm starting to get a visual of it now. You can actually put it together. And it shows where the edge of the skilled nursing is gonna be, and then you can clearly see the expansion point, you know, when we grow it. So it's really starting to, it's fun because you can actually start to picture it a little bit more.
Get you in a director's chair, put out there and you can just.
Yeah.
Just with I need an orchestra leader. But anyway, so that's going on, signage is going up. We are in our human resources director search. As you know, Jenny issued her resignation. She is staying on in a remote capacity. And through a training and onboarding of our new HR director, received somewhere of 38 applications.
Wow.
5 of which were really outstanding. I mean, really good talent, good human resources talent, good human resources in healthcare talent. So we went through our initial interviews, team interviews. We've invited 2 candidates to come to the site for a full day of interviews. If one of the board members or any of the board members would like to be involved in those, we're forming those teams now. So I think that that's going to be a really, really good addition. We're really, like, this is a critical hire for us. So,
I think we should include Shelley for sure.
okay.
Any other board members interested in participating?
Because we're gonna have 2 teams. They're in 2 teams of Jude, one led by Judy, one led by Brady. And then some staff members with very codified questions, Q&A, so that we have equal footing for all the same questions will be asked of all candidates.
Shelley's excellent
I
person.
think she,
Okay.
yeah. I'm thinking if you have 2 teams, maybe we have 2.
It's up to you if you'd like to join us. This is once again a very critical hire for the organization. So we really want to do our due diligence.
So I'm happy to do it if no one else wants to do it.
Okay, let's connect you with one of the 2 team leads then. And then we'll go from there. So we plan on, we are actually in the midst of starting to schedule those. So they may be in the next 2 or 3 weeks when we get holiday and there's back to school and stuff going on. So we'll see how that goes. And I would like to put an offer out and as early as end of September. That way we have a 3-month transition of all the things that need to happen before takeover, okay? Some legislation that I've been following, we've been tracking. I brought up AB 2975 last time, I believe it was. This was the Secure Hospitals for All bill that has passed the assembly unanimously. With no exceptions for critical access or rural at this point, although they're trying to write some exemptions in there. It can pose a real problem for us as it relates to the requirement of the law. We would have to place metal detectors at the entrances to the building, and we also have to be able to mitigate any findings if there's somebody's carrying a weapon or a knife. There's all these requirements for how we operationalize this as it relates to taking it, securing it, what do we do with it? So I was on a call with the advocacy team from CHA, and I was very clear that this makes absolutely no, it's great if we're talking about metal detectors, but I don't think the legislature is looking at what it takes to have a process behind any of that. People's Second Amendment rights, we need some guidance as it relates to these types of
And
things.
I was gonna ask, does law enforcement, do they even know about this bill? Because
They're supporting it, their unions are supporting it.
what about our local sheriff's department?
I don't think they even know about it.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of sheriffs in the state that I think would be negatively impacted.
They've made it very clear that they will be of no assistance to us unless the patient is on duty.
Yes, or unless we sign a special contract to have an off-duty officer available to us and it's at cost, so.
What's the, say, patient is admitted and is
Anybody,
in the hospital and a relative comes to visit them and they go through that and they have a pocket knife. So
so
that's where we need the procedure to say, do we say, take your knife back to your car?
well,
Or do we
Is the knife
say,
legal?
we're holding your knife for 30 days or?
this is, so here's,
I know the courthouse, depending on what it is, they will frequently make the person take it back to
Yeah.
their vehicle.
Yeah.
so these
Like
are,
a cigar cutter. fingernail
I had a
clippers.
multi.
But these are deputies that are doing that. These are court deputies. These are
But
sworn
what I'm saying
officers.
is that that's basically the remedies that are available.
Right, either take it back
Either that or take possession of it.
and
is-
we're not taking possession.
Yeah, that's not.
That's just ridiculous. And we're not gonna adjudicate whether a knife is legal size, it's, the size of the blade. We don't wanna get into any of that, and we certainly don't wanna hire 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, somebody who has to adjudicate that, especially with our volume. So I just wanna be aware that it passed the assembly unanimously, which means it's moving over. And we've got to somehow write exceptions into this, so I'll be putting together a letter on behalf of the rurals and CHA, the critical access
Legislative
hospitals.
analysis say about it. Have you seen that?
What's that?
The legislative analysis? Have you
The
seen-
ledge hand?
Yeah,
It did talk, there was language in there talking about a possible exemption for small critical access hospitals and rural hospitals. But, really, the way it's written is really funny because it just talks about the metal detector being the end all be all. So we detected it, now what? And that's the question that a lot of people are asking, and that's really where the cost is.
And
Well, they're
certainly,
expensive, don't get me wrong, these things are not cheap.
No, and a lot of times people, I've gotten firsthand looking at how this works. And a lot of times people go through the metal detector, they've already put their purse, their briefcase, everything else on the X-ray detector machine. They go through and it goes crazy and it's their belt buckle. Or it's something they have in their pocket that's not a weapon, but it's metallic. Or women's brasiers,
Mhm.
the underwires
Yeah.
set it up. So they think we're gonna hire somebody that's gonna physically
Yeah,
search this.
we're not the
person.
TSA.
Yeah,
Um,
to me, that is really.
well, do we have,
Okay.
speaking of policies, if a patient is presented on in an ambulance and there's not a sweep done by paramedics and they have a weapon, we don't have a policy how to confiscate, take and secure that as well. So we're gonna have to think about this in the grander scale of just the legislation that's coming through, is how do we deal with patients being presented on a gurney that were picked up by EMS and have a weapon?
Did your CEO group that met the other day, did you talk about this?
Yeah, and they're just trying to put their head around how we can produce,
more questions than
oh,
answers.
there's how we operationalize this kind of legislation. And the thing is, these things are not cheap, they're really expensive. And there's no funding, of course. It's just there'll be another unfunded mandate that would come down. So we're really paying attention to this.
So does the Valley have something like this already in place?
A lot of places do, and a lot of places don't. Did Enlow put them in there yet? Because Mike Wiltermood, the CEO, Enlow's on there, and he's scratching his head too, like,
So
we
this,
have
this was
guards.
unanimous, our assemblyman voted.
33-0.
Because it doesn't cost anything to the state.
Doesn't cost
They
anything to
care.
the state. So even the bigger facilities are scratching their heads saying it has to be all labor delivery, ER. Mental health, all entrances where it's really
All public access entrances or all entrances?
All public access.
public access entrances, which means, if you've got 9 openings to a building, a surgery center and an MOB and a stuff. These things are upwards of $35,000 each for the cheap ones. So anyway, very, very concerning to me that it's just a short-sighted perspective on security. But we will be dealing with this because it seems to be getting unanimous approval. So anyway, that's going on there, something to be aware of. I really don't have anything else that's not going to be covered in everybody else's report. So any questions for me?
Okay, so board members,
Nope, thanks.
thank you. All right, I think that brings us to Judy.
Don't have much to report this month either. Clearly, we've been very busy with a lot of different
And we just
places.
met a couple months ago, or a couple weeks ago too.
So, and I think a lot of what I would report on would probably come out in other people's reports, but there is a little bit of a GI viral illness that is going around our community right now. It's probably some sort of norovirus. There's a little tiny bit of COVID still rearing its ugly head from time to time, but it seemed to have calmed down quite a bit from what we were experiencing earlier this summer, so that's great. And then a lot of what is taking my personal time at work right now is just reorienting myself to plans. Because we kind of had a long period of time that we were so focused on it. And now we have to go back into all of our medical equipment, all of everything that's coming, because now we're getting into some real very pointed questions, because there are new players now. And so Linda and I spent a couple hours yesterday going through things to reorient. So, I mean, it's going to be awesome, but we did have this kind of lag time that some of it got a little bit cloudy and there's some cobwebs and that we're trying to dust off right now,
I
but.
feel that way too, because someone asked me a question about it the other day and I went, where did we land on that?
Right.
So,
Figure
Yeah,
it's
so things that the last
years.
was just like, I thought we decided that we weren't gonna do that. What did we decide? And so, that's kind of where we're at right now too, but, we're incredibly excited to see all of this work going in. Yeah, so, but unless you have any questions for me, I really don't have anything else to report to you this month.
thank you, I appreciate it. All right, that brings us to Brady.
Thank you. So all of the projects that I talked in the last were still that will continue forward. So we're still working on all of those things. A couple things that we're mentally switching on, obviously, we're in the summer, fall kind of mindset from the operational standpoint, but we're looking towards winter and what the design will be, what the physician complement, all of that stuff. So that's kind of where our mind is. We're in September, we will, and this is interesting, and thanks Sean for bringing this up, because we have a fence up and we will have snow removal. So the contract that's coming up in September, we have to look at it slightly different than we have before, because we used to be able to put snow back there, we won't be able to. So stuff like that, that we're starting to kind of work through. That's why we're looking ahead. And that's all of Linda's great work. When it comes to the hospital facility operations, everything is status quo except for our old water heater, which that was giving us some issues. Jay thankfully got it up and running again, but we are keeping our eyes on that. Let's see, where is it? Now, Judy touched upon the new design of the hospital. So Judy and I have been working in the different departments, and there's either new training or changes within or opportunity for changes. We are looking at it with an eye towards what does that look like and what is the staff design or the process design, so that we can start mimicking it over here. So we're going through, as we have the opportunity to, the different departments and starting to look at that, so that we're practicing over here. So when we start day one over there, we're already doing that. That will follow once we design that, policies and all the other things. So that's ongoing, but that's kind of where our mind is. The good thing for me is I'm looking at the, I've looked at the drawings, but I'm looking at them in detail right now, so I can understand how the design was for the operation. So when I'm looking at it over there, I can see the adjustments we need to make. So that's what Judy and I are kind of working on, preparing for that, because 2.5 years and healthcare, it goes quick. So that's kind of where our mind is, but it's fun and exciting because we're thinking about that and what our daily, and staff, they're getting excited about that because we're starting to talk about, okay, in the new place, this is what we're gonna be, working on. So,
Get that muscle memory
yeah,
in advance.
Yeah.
I like it.
Barry, I'm just, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just, I don't know why it's never occurred to me before. I'm not sure I really fully understand how change orders make, but in one sense, being very optimistic here that we grow and have more, consumers coming through the front door.
For services.
Where's our cushion in the design to accommodate more than we anticipated?
Oh,
well, this is a good example. So like the OR design over here, there's an OR room and a procedure room. You could technically in this facility over here, you could be working both of those rooms simultaneously during the day. Over here, it's one room.
Oh,
So you can only stack, you know, X per, you know, in one room per time. And so in that design, it has capacity, extra capacity already built into it. So that's what we have to start training over here. So that when we, for the surgical procedure or surgical services, so that we're ready for that type of a design. Now, the goal is to get the volume. We can't do that volume over here, but we could get close. And so that's the thing, so when you still have capacity to grow once you move in, just by that design. But, so that's kind of an example of, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. I know we'll cover some of this in the financial report, but clinic activity, are we seeing the what are our numbers? What are, how does it look? I am gonna preface it by saying I'm concerned. I know the park fire is a factor, but essentially we closed down. Summer's over around here. Almanor West is shutting down their restaurant Monday.
Better get in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the way it used to be. Yes, we would slowly shut things down, but this is, you know, I came through Chester yesterday looking to get a bite to eat and weren't many options.
Yeah,
So is this impacting our clinic?
well, so there's two answers to that. So in July, which was probably a normal summer month, you know, we had activity, we had town activities. Pre-fire, I believe the numbers for the clinic were 1,106 or something like that. Anyway,
11:20.
yeah, 11:20. So July was a high water mark, summertime, you know, the town looked normal.
Part of that was fire too, I think, toward the end of the month.
Yeah,
Towards the end of the month, and
Yeah. Yeah, so then in August, because, you know, roads closed, all of that stuff. Just my gut feeling was, and I think I mentioned it, Sean. We're slowing down, but surprisingly, you know, and Steve will report the numbers. The numbers were still pretty good for the month of August. And so our clip rate per week was still pretty good. Now, in there, and after I was looking at town, looking at the volume gone, all of that stuff, you know, we had school, you know, kids, vaccine, you know, all the other stuff that would kept that volume up. The other thing that we gotta probably do better in our recordings, structure is established patients or primary care patients versus walk-in. So in theory, the established patients, other than the ones that are the second homeowners and we are their primary care, is kind of our base business. And the walk-ins could be, the business that comes and goes.
Seasonal.
Yeah, the seasonal thing, so, Steve can report on the numbers, but we actually, for the month of August, it surprised me. But my gut, my feeling when I was driving around, the same thing, I'm like, you know, it knocked the, you know, that volume that I was thinking that summer. So our mix might be changing too, meaning established patients. Now, working the phones and listening to people that are coming in, they're coming from, I mean, Susanville, West, you know, all the different areas, and they are establishing care. So and families are establishing care. Yeah, so it's kind of a mixed bag that Steve can report on.
I think that, you know, like all of our seasonal stuff, we'll see a drop in the walk-in and the ER. But the numbers that I'm seeing is that we have people that have reestablished because we have providers. And we've got good care, people taking care of each other, and, you know, Brady's answering the phone, and that helps a lot. on me. But we're starting, and plus with partnership, we're starting to see a lot of influx from the Westwood area where they're establishing, because there's no primary care there anymore. They don't staff it, so they're coming here. Interestingly enough, Susanville.
Yeah.
You know, we have people that are establishing here from Susanville. You know, and I don't know what's going on over there, but I think that overall you're gonna see the established in the winter, it's all of our local people that establish care here and will see their doctors. I think you're gonna see a rise over the last 4 years that we've seen. But it is going to have that seasonal downturn without a doubt.
Yeah, there'll be, and that's why our staffing model and our operation model is
Follows
changing.
that.
So, but we still owe the report, the zip code analysis report,
Yeah,
and we can do it, it's just, we're fine tuning it.
we haven't even started really our outreach as it relates to colonoscopies and stuff like that, so. You know, we are gonna be doing a directed outreach for people who have not been doing their preventative care in the fall. So that they start establishing, they start getting their preventative care, they start to try to bolster our winter months. Is let's start being proactive through the winter.
And so the goal is, it's kind of a flywheel type design. You know, you go through the seasonalities, and so in summertime, you're hanging on, you're taking care of everybody, right? Because they're coming in. And then wintertime, you start your new processes, so your
Projects.
volume. You're always influencing the volume as you're going through the calendar year. And in healthcare, there is a season where, like, towards the end of the year, everybody's met their deductibles that have those types of plans, so they're trying to get the procedures done. So you have to make room and capacity for that flywheel, and if you do a good job, they talk to their friends and they start establishing, and if you keep doing that with Chelsea's magic, then volume is steadily always increasing. Now, you don't want it to increase too much too fast because your operations underneath it won't be able to handle it. But that's kind of what this cycle is. That's why I'm kind of reporting that way. A high season, low season, we'll still watch the numbers. We still have a budget target, all of that. So
When will we spend projects spinning up for the next year, trying to get the volume like surgical procedures.
Yeah.
More expanded ortho procedures. And I know that Brady's been working with the OR team, and we're be doing of things that we haven't done in a long time, you know,
Yeah.
knees, scopes, and so we're starting to build into that. And that's the whole idea, is for the next 2 years to start to build into it. So when we get over there, we have capacity to handle whatever they can throw at us.
I have to say, I thought the population would shrink, or the downtown business would contract a bit out during the fire, but I was surprised on the weekends. I thought there was still pretty good numbers of people downtown.
I still had friends surprisingly that, you know, I saw they had their vacation set.
Yeah.
They were not letting
Gosh, they're doing it.
letting it budge. And I'm like,
We are more of a weekend kind of destination now, there's no question about that. And the restaurants are now open Thursday, Friday instead of. Yeah,
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
so I don't know what kind of impact that has on us. I don't know, do we have information about our schools? How many
The enrollment,
students, and yeah, has
Sure
that
we do.
changed at all?
I know that they had increased last year, do you know this year?
Increased again this year compared to last year,
For the elementary school or middle
For-
school also?
for high school and elementary school, so the public school system increased, and so did the charter, the private school, then went down. So, but just slightly, they have very small numbers.
Thank you.
And to be fair, our local restaurants typically do change their hours around the time kids go back to school. And so I wasn't really that surprised, honestly, that they've kind of started shifting them now. So.
Well, yeah, I figure those are employees, students.
Plugs. Any other questions for Brady? Comments? Thanks, Brady. Appreciate it. I think that brings us to Brian.
Yeah, it was a pretty good month for us. be down, one employee for a couple more months, because, one of our members had to be paid. So waiting for Bree to come back. I've got a lot of behind the scenes work done this month. All the cameras on both buildings are finally all working. As you saw, she redirected a couple of them to, as we saw, requests from law enforcement for certain things. We repointed some of the cameras, so even
USDA.
yeah, USDA wants that shot out back, so we're got that all covered now.
Is that something that they monitor?
It's just, they wanted a camera on the site.
We did get our 1 gig Ethernet from Frontier installed. We're in the process of turning that up live. We finalized the Starlink complete Cerner failover. We can run Cerner on Starlink. We did on a couple occasions, but there's some other work needs to be done. Now it's fully automated, so we are fully functional as long as we get power here. So we're not dependent on any other infrastructure to see patients.
So if Frontier goes down, we should be able to conduct business.
Yeah, we see lab results, printing, VPN tunnels, everything we need. We're fully independent for that now. The last part would be, once we get that Apex finishes that 1 gig connection for us, we will start our other projects that we're dependent on, moving to SharePoint, getting our PAC system into the cloud, so it's not stored on site. Also the iPads came from the Butterfly, so we're getting those up and ready. We're starting to work on the Butterfly interface, so, you know, a lot of behind the scenes work happening right now.
Good stuff.
Oh, yes, that's a big one. Yes, the copiers are on a fast track. We probably should be in 2 or 3 weeks away from replacing the print suite. Yeah.
Great. A lot going on for sure.
Yeah.
Any questions for Brian? Thank you, Brian. All right, that brings us to our HR.
I think Jenny's on.
Hey, Jenny.
Hi guys, I'm here on Zoom. If anyone has any specific questions, happy to answer them about my report or about the newsletter.
Thank you. So I looked on the little paragraph, page in the newsletter. Yes, and I saw that kind of work some of the fonts and things in here are really fun too. I noticed that, Jenny. I personally don't have any questions. Does anybody have any questions to get on our HR report or any other HR items? Well, it's gonna say we're gonna miss you, Jenny, but thanks for sticking around and helping us through the transition. We really appreciate it.
Of course, happy to help.
Thank you, and thanks for being here. So I think that brings us to Chuck, the marketing PR.
Any questions? Your report?
I had just wanted to know what time, so you said for the.
Yes,
coffee.
so 9 to 11 for the coffee next Thursday. So it's going to be in the back parking lot. It'll be outside of the gates for safety reasons. And we'll have some coffee and beach trees and people set up and for people to stop by, look at mingle, see what's going on, say hi. We'll have leadership like rotating in and out of the area, so like everybody's there the full hours. And then staff is invited to come by, the public is invited to come by, so it should be a fun event. We have a lot of good feedback. We are this Sunday at the band shell, so we have a table there at the band shell for more information. It should be hopefully a good band shell, and you know, we're there to get one of the prizes, so Sean will be up there with the microphone and he'll get to give an update on the new build and share the exciting news with everybody. Town halls, and Sean will also be doing a presentation at the town hall coming up this month. We are looking at the last week of September or first week of October for another Live at 5 with the radio station. So Rod and I are working on dates right now for availability. Other than that, phone book is all dialed in for next year. We're done with that. So pages and pages of phone numbers, it's fun.
And did our presser get picked up?
Yes, our press release for the new bill got picked up by Action News. It was on television. It's been in the Sun, so everybody's sharing it. Everybody's excited about it. And It's, yeah, you got it, but any general questions regarding marketing, PR, other than that, we're just continuing the different campaigns, the provider campaign, we're gonna start to focus on imaging as well. To share more information about imaging and especially once the new multi-channel machine is in, we want people to, know we have a new machine and that they can use it. We also are starting to go into the ER providers, so we're finishing up with clinic providers, and we're gonna go into sharing information about ER providers.
Great. Just as we're on the copy, will we have a sign on Reynolds? So people know where to go to have the copy, otherwise I actually thought we were maybe doing it in here, so.
Right, so we're gonna have signage out front over here, and then we're gonna do like some balloons and stuff, just to kind of direct people, and then we'll have some staff volunteers that are helping like direct people and kind of let them know, but also the front door of the clinic. We'll have signage as well as a signage by the gate, so that people aren't trained on.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
Right,
thinking about, yeah.
and so we're gonna have signage that says, please come around to the back of the clinic and, join us for the event, and then on the back of the clinic, we'll have signage for like,
Go clockwise.
yeah, and we'll have signage for restaurants and things like that, this will be blocked off so people can't park back there, because we don't want
Yeah.
people trying to park while other people are anyway or anything like that, so.
Yeah, no telling how big it will be, but it's just come on by, grab a donut, grab a cup of coffee, watch the tractor pushes some dirt, and it's just kind of our way out to the community, say, come by and see the kick. I mean, we're actually working out there.
So we just brought up the excitement, again, and okay, we have progress, yeah.
Well, the race is for reals this time, right?
I saw a blue heron in my backyard
No,
today.
no,
Should we just move down to our-
I think you go to my property.
too late, construction started. Too late, it's too late.
Any other questions for Chelsea?
I'm sorry.
Any questions for
No,
Chelsea?
thank you.
Okay. That's to. You know what? I do know how to. Chelsea there?
Billy, you're.
I'm sorry, Charlie. Sorry, Chelsea. Charlie, are you there? All right, well, we'll skip her for now, and if she pops on, just let me know, Brian, okay?
All right.
All right, so that brings us to item number 8, policies and procedures.
That's also Darlene.
Yeah,
But
I didn't personally have any questions, except for I was gonna ask Brian if maybe you can reset my password again, because I forgot it again. So I, so admittedly, I reviewed the actual versions that were sent out. Thank you for doing that, Deborah.
Yeah.
But I do plan to actually log in and do them in here. Does everybody have their logins?
I went on and played with it and I got through, what was it, 25 of the 73 that was
Nice.
in there.
Nice.
Well, some of those I think are ones that we already reviewed like this.
I'm not sure, I saw Sherry's signature and several of them. So I just followed your lead.
It shows who's reviewed them.
So you can see that. I did try.
Once you do it,
I
it's a
did
pretty
try.
simple
See,
process.
see my hands for she said.
Only 46 to go.
Yeah, no.
There we go.
You're on your way.
That's what I told myself too. I think 40 some odd more.
Do we have a license and skill?
Once we get caught up, that'll be nice.
Guys,
Yeah.
sorry, I was on, but I couldn't figure out where my screen was because I was doing multiple things at the same time. Did you have any questions for me? This is Charlene.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. You want to go back real quick to your, is there anything you wanted to highlight from your compliance report?
No, I don't have anything to highlight. All of the reports for the QA portion will be presented during closed sessions. So
Anyone have any questions for Charlene on her compliance report? Thank you for putting it together, Charlene. So let's go ahead and then we'll move back to the policies and procedures. I didn't have any issues with any of the edits that I read. I don't know if board members have any questions or comments on these.
You know, the only comment I have, which is probably since the first day on this board, is some of them are so technical that I really don't feel qualified to quote approve or disapprove. It's kind of like I'm gonna rely on the expertise of the very well-paid
All of
qualified
us do,
people
yes.
that are reviewing them, but I'm doing that here.
Well, you can,
So why am I doing it in addition on the computer?
Oh,
See what I mean? The same policies are coming here and we're approving them.
I think that's, I mean, that, I kind of had the same thought process, but what I realized is if I could just read those and formulate questions or concerns I had in my head, I
That's
didn't really
it.
see any. It was just, okay, looks good to me. When I clicked approved on that, I didn't really think I was approving it on behalf of the board. I was just saying.
You were
I
saying-
approve of it.
you were saying,
That's what
I
I'm
have no
saying.
I have
comments,
no,
I have
yeah,
no questions.
I have no concerns here. They're jumping out at me.
And it goes back and gets.
Probably if it gets down to 4 or 5, it wouldn't be that big a deal, but when you're looking at 70, it's kind of like,
You know, and I can
How
tell
many
you
of these
that
do I
these are
get?
scrutinized over and over again by the experts of that area.
that's what, when I met with
scrutinized.
Charlene, that's what she
So-
explained, and
Yeah,
so that's why I thought it's being looked at by everybody that has the in-depth expertise and has dealt with any regulatory agency that's requiring it and everything
if
else.
something jumps on the page to you, though, you have the ability to ask
yeah,
questions, you know.
sure, and I think the reason for us to go through on the system and seeing it and being able to see if we have any suggestions isn't necessarily for the technicality of it, but occasionally we might catch. You know, a grammatical error
Yeah, so you can approve,
or
you can,
something like that, it doesn't happen, it does happen.
So you can-
Over and over.
you can,
Yes.
you can approve for style points. How about that? You can't gain, you
Then I'm
can't, you
really
can't
a
judge the,
person.
the double flip, but by gosh, you can certainly approve for style.
I shouldn't have said that. I saw a few things. So.
Yeah.
All right,
Any other questions, comments around the policies and procedures? Then I would accept a motion to
thanks, Charlene.
approve and rescind as listed in our agenda, or in our materials.
I move approve and or rescind as indicated in our agenda.
Do I have a second?
1 second.
Thank you, Ken. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Sherry? Ken? And I'll vote aye. Thank you, Charlie. Okay, so that moves us into item number 9, Steve, CFO report.
So before we roll into the board materials, I just wanted to make a couple comments about the new build. On Tuesday, we closed on the interim financing, which was fabulous. So much work by so many people. And we also made our final owner's equity contribution for the initial letter of condition. For the amendment, we got the additional funding to meet our budget. We committed to covering the $2 million in construction period interest. The terms of which we would pay $500,000 at loan closing, and then we funded over time to service the debt payments, interest only. And we made the $500,000 payment, and so we're off and running. Just to also be clear on things, one of the agreements we made with the lender, Western Alliance Bank, is that we would use their trust department or trust entity to handle the funds. And so what will happen is we submitted a draw schedule to Western Alliance Bank, working with Donna Huntingdale and the general contractor to try and determine when we would need funds. Because we only, although we're borrowing 31 million plus for the conditions of participation, we'll only be charged interest as we draw money. So we're gonna try and keep a reasonable reserve in there, but not incur interest expense that we don't need to. Any funds that are held will earn some interest themselves, but since we're going to be pulling the money quickly, it'll have to be incredibly liquid, and so there's a limit on the interest. But what will happen is quarterly, we'll take a draw from the bank, from the lender. It'll go to the trustee. And then over the quarter, we'll make requisitions for payments to the contractor, to some of the other non-contract bill related items, and the trustee will release payment to the vendors. We'll do that once a month. The vendors will submit their requests for payment at the beginning of the month for the prior month. And then we'll go through the process and away we go.
Do we know how long that process will take for the bank to release those or to pay those invoices?
Yeah, so we had a call today, Donna and I were on with the Western Alliant Bank, and both the lender and the trustee and USDA. And I think we came up with a nice compromise where there will be a parallel review of the invoices by both the bank and USDA. So we're not like waiting for one to finish and then hand it off to another. So we'll all review it, and I don't see a reason that we're not gonna have a maximum of 30-day turnaround, which would be a normal pay turn. So I just don't see any issues as long as all of the vendors provide the required or necessary documentation for their expense requests. So that's that.
And our first draw will occur or did occur already?
It did occur. It was at closing. So it was a combination of our contribution and a 1 million draw from the conditions of participation, and a 5.8, whatever it is, draw from the GO notes, the general obligation notes, which will be the debt, the interest on that will be serviced through the GO tax, which we talked about last time, will start in November. So off and running, I guess.
Now that you started construction, when will that tax that we passed start showing up on our property tax?
We're told November.
This November?
Mhm. That our municipal advisors have submitted the paperwork or the whatever to Plymouth County to get on the roll, and so we should see it in November.
Okay, and I forgot already, it's been so long, and my memory's that short. What was the percentage of your property tax
It's $80,
per,
$100,000 assessed value.
okay, $80.
And that's annually. And that's
And-
annual every year.
Forever and ever,
No.
So the debt's paid off.
Oh, that's paid off.
That's jail.
forever and ever in my life.
Maybe me too.
Me too. Yeah.
Good point.
Good question.
All right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Okay. All right. So what we're talking about today, as far as a financial presentation, is the month of June 2024, the last month of our fiscal year. And I'm just gonna, you've had time to pour over the information. There's not a lot there other than to really note that we had our highest revenue month of the fiscal year, highest revenue month in June, Christmas. We present 13 months in the report, and man, that is a good screen. It's the highest in the last 13 months. We look at June of 24 total patient revenue, so hospital, clinic, nursing home, $2.4 million. June of 23, $1.86 million. So significant increase there. As we went into July, and just to Rich's point, we talk about some of the trends. The month of July, not in your materials, was total hospital and clinic revenue was $2,339,000, another $300,000 of nursing home revenue, so $2,006,000.
$2.6 million, so it even exceeded June. The July of 2023 was just under $2 million. August, we have seen a little dip through, was it yesterday? Yesterday, if we take it August through the 28th and push it out 3 more days, we're looking at hospital of $2,158,000. So we still kind of hung in there during the month of August. And then on top of that, the 300,000 in the nursing home. So it is starting to come down a little bit, but it's still way higher. August of 23 was 1.7 million on the hospital and clinic versus the 2.1 for August. So
And no fire in 23.
no fire in 23. I can't remember it.
Just sir.
You know, true story. We did see a drop when the system converted. So, but anyway, so now we're like I said, we're off and running. So for the month of June, we were positive in total patient revenue, 228,000. Our deductions were negative, mainly due to the increase in revenue, but we did have a little blip on our third-party adjustments. So we had a negative variance of 187 that still left us with about 41,000 in positive net patient revenue to budget. Our expenses ran a little high. There's a line item there. Employee benefits were negative 82,000. We had some issues with getting the calculation for our employee 403 matching. And so that represents 6 months of the matching, or the variance does, that we pay January through June. So that brought us current through the fiscal year. We've done July's matching for the employees, and I'll do August here tomorrow or first of next week. So we're back current, processing with the regular contributions. So that was a great thing we did to do a matching program. A purchase service. All right, what did I say about purchase service? Nothing, right? Purchase service was older invoices that we're getting submitted relating to IT and patient accounting. And then the rest flows down. So pretty much between the purchase service and the employee benefits, we had a negative variance of 149,785. Income from operations negative 106,000. We had a small positive in donations. I think that 54,070 is the generous donation from the auxiliary, which we've already put to use. Signed a check today to McKesson for the analyzer. So that's wonderful. And we're moving forward with the butterfly ultrasound. So for the month, we had a loss of 93,500 versus profit of 2,500. So negative 96,000. The days on cash on hand decreased from 99.57. It's back on the first page, Brian. Sorry. 99.57 to 82.16. This was due to the loss of the month of June, increase in vendor payments, and the decrease in patient account collection. So back in June, we had more struggles with our patient accounts. We'll give a great update here under revenue cycle in the R1 report. Gross accounts receivable under the month at 7.79 million, which is a 875,000 increase over May. The days increased to 108.52 and remained well above the best practices targets of 45 to 55 days. I think that's all I have for the month of June. Like I said, I'm going to talk about where we've gone with the AR both into July and into August, which is finally a good story to tell. Any questions about the financial statements?
We're welcome the June financial report. If anyone has any questions, if not, I'll accept a motion to accept the report.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Carrie? Ken?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Thank you, Steve. I think that moves us to our updated cash flow report.
The 9.2. You have to rotate it. Even blow it up on this screen. This screen can't. Okay. Yes. Oh. Okay. So, a couple things here is, this is the cash projection out through the end of December. Yeah, perfect. And so June, we were at 106, about 106 days cash on hand. We went into July. Cash dropped slightly, even though we had a three payroll month. We had two things happen. We had the decrease in accounts receivable. We had good collections. We had a Medicare cost report settlement that paid us $303,000. That was our interim rate review. Then it went down. Just looking at something really fast here. Oh, it's the loss for and then the loss for the month. I think that we had the pluses were 600,000 and the lesses were 445, but our cash went down. So yeah, the loss for the month, which July with that revenue, that loss could be less than that. So stay tuned for a full report on July. So small decrease in cash days on hand, 103.61 or so. Then here in August, this was a lot going on in the month of August. So big thing is the cash expenditures on the new build, the 2,169,136. That's a combination of the amount that we transferred this week to meet our final obligation. And then we also made a couple payments in August to architects and the fire system consultants or contractors. And so the total that we paid out on the project for owner's contribution was the 2,169,000. And then we made the $500,000 contribution for the to pre-fund the interim financing interest. So I think that's right about where we're going to be at here at the end of the week. Is about 3.3 million or 56.7 days. So what I want to talk about is two things. So in September there, we show a rate range intergovernmental transfer of $2 million. So there's an agenda item coming up that we're going to talk about this, the possibility for us to enhance our rate range payments for calendar year 23. And it'll include an increase in our intergovernmental transfer. Previously it was a little over 1.1 million and now it's looking at 2 million. But the good news is over there in December, when we're going to receive 5.4 million versus the previous 3.8 million. So that's the first piece that we want to talk about. I need to have your approval or concurrence, acceptance to move forward with going forward with the state DHCS to do that intergovernmental transfer and then the associated fee that we're going to pay to the people that help pull it together for us.
So Steve, can we talk about that perhaps in more detail and review that before we
Sure.
come back to acceptance of the cash flow?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, so Brian, go back to the.
And I think it'd be helpful for board members to know what our outlay difference would be, the 2 million versus what we originally had planned to do.
Okay, yeah, do that, the 9.38. Okay. So this is in your board materials and it's just kind of the chronology and history, how we got to this point. You know, it all started with, good evening, Steve. So it was after a phone call I had with Steve Clark and Associates, who's I guess the management arm of the District Hospital Leadership Forum, which is the group that, a group of district hospitals in the state of California that meet. And the big thing that the DHLF has done is create these supplemental programs, whether it's rate range or HQAF or now the DHDP new program that's coming down to provide for these supplemental payments that bring Medi-Cal reimbursement up to where it should be. And it's obtained through the use of an intergovernmental transfer whereby a governmental entity such as Seneca Healthcare District makes a payment to the state cycles it through Medi-Cal, gets the matching funds from federal government, and then those matching funds are returned to us plus our IGT. So they've been doing this, gosh, since 2010, working on these programs. And one of the individuals, actually the managing partner now of Steve Clark and Associates, Steve retired. He said, hey, we were looking at your numbers and we think that there's room for you to get more of a rate range payment. And when he says room, that means we submit our information to them that shows our uncompensated care, or uncompensated cost. And he says that the managed care companies will allow us to IGT up to that amount, and then we get the supplemental payment back. So he says, you know, I think we can do this. I gave him a bunch of data. He went to both Anthem and California Health and Wellness and said, here's what we got for Seneca. Here's what they're currently doing, and we think they can IGT up to this amount. And it was up to the managed care plans because, quite frankly, they have discretion on how they pay out those funds in these particular programs. Some of the other programs, there's more of a mandate on how the money should be paid out. So, but still, it's supported by our data that says that, you know, here's the methodology. We won't go over this level or whatever they, you know, ultimately how they make the numbers work and all that. But you can see here that, you know, we have great news. Anthem has let us know that they've agreed to fund Seneca with the full amount we proposed to them of an IGT of 600,000 for calendar year 23 rate range. So calendar year 23 rate range, that's where they take the data for 23, and then it gets paid out, as you can see, by the end of 2024, early 25. And Nathan goes on to say, as you know, for calendar 22, Anthem awarded you, IGT of 294,632 is roughly a 300% increase, which should net you an additional roughly 450,000 more. Exact estimate to come later. So next page. Okay, so same story with California Health and Wellness. We just have a bigger volume of business with them. And so they said that we could IGT up to $1.4 million versus 838 last time. And then like I said, additional $850,000. So keep going here. And this is where he said that it's the Steve Clark and Associates analysis of it said that which should net you roughly $1.5 million more than last year's amount. And Next couple of months, you receive a contract from DHS to execute, committing to the IGT amounts, and the IGT payments will be due this fall. We've received the contracts, we have them in hand, we're just waiting to sign them. So here's the comparison of the 2 years. So the top is calendar year 22, we IGT $1.13279 million, that's what went out. Down at the bottom there, DHCS took a fee, 20% or so. It's 20% on certain parts of it, just to make it more confusing. It's not the whole thing. And then we received back $3,893,059. So there was a net benefit to us of just under $2.7 million. Now what's proposed is that we will IGT out 2 million. There will be a little higher fee. More of this is subject to the 20%. So this is a real estimate, the 165. So the outlay, if you will be 2,165,000 versus supplemental payment of $5.7 million for a net benefit of $3,549,000. So the increase from 22 to 23 that they were able to attain was $850,680. The contract that I accepted for them to go do the work has a provision that they would get 15% of any enhanced amount. So they would get 15% of the $850,000. So we get that the payments would come back in, and then we would pay them the $127,602.
So originally, the amount that we would have put out for calendar year 2023 would have been about what we did in 22, right? 1.1 or so.
Steve Clark, Nathan Davis and Steve Clark, he said the pool is a little bigger because this is the final, 23 is the final year that we're with Anthem and California Health and Wellness. But generally speaking, yes, that the relationships would be the same there. There might have been a little bit more money available, but it's hard to say.
Questions, comments, concerns?
I'm glad they alerted you, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a couple things, if I'm stopping you from saying anything, just go ahead or try and talk. A couple good things is that this contract is only for calendar year 2023. So when we go into 24, we can re-engage them to do the same type of thing. And what's significant here is that calendar year 24 will be our first year with partnership. So, it's a whole new relationship. It's a whole new negotiation. So we don't know where things are going to fall. But couple things here. One is that this net benefit of 3.5 will be the new baseline. So when they go to partnership, if all they're able to get out of partnership is the same deal we had, if you will, with Anthem and California Health and Wellness, we don't pay anything. So, it sounds like, okay, well, fine, but what does that mean? Well, that means that we're bumping our future supplemental payments at $700,000. We keep that for the next couple of years, which is huge, which is really good for us. So, Rich brought up a question in the treasurer's meeting. And he said, what about takebacks or what about this or that? The rate range program is not subject to what they call reconciliation. It's what's the program's approved, amounts are dispersed. There's no like, we paid you too much or this is not right. They just move on. So, we don't have to worry about, well, what happens if they come back and audit us and take it back, you pay back your fee, so that circumstance per Steve Clark won't happen. So that's what we're doing. I just wanted to bring this to you guys, because two things. One is it's commitment of additional fund to make the IGT, which we will get back. And secondly, it's an expenditure of $120,000 to the company that's done this work.
And to make sure that the board members understand and be clear that for a few months.
Mhm.
I think until December, yeah.
You-
That's a big one. We want to make sure everything's aware of it.
When I look at this cash on hand figure for June, it differed from what I was seeing on the screen. Was I misreading that? I don't know.
So, and we probably need to talk about this at some point. A while back, you guys, we designated some funds for just rainy day and for
Those are
potential
restricted
capital
funds.
things. And so in the narrative there, Ken, under additional information where it talks about the cash, it says that the days cash on hand decreased to 82.16.
Right.
And then at the very end, it says there is also 23.96 days of cash in board designated funds for a total cash on hand of 106.12. So,
2 available.
Right. So that's explaining this right here, right?
that's all in 106 is all of our funds.
Yeah.
And to be fair, to be right, I guess we should probably at some point just get your approval or.
Well, no, I was just.
No,
I was-
no, it's a good question, and because, we're gonna spend it, so, at least temporarily.
Yeah.
But I think once we get, as you can see, when we go to December, when we receive that supplemental payment back. We're back up over 100 days cash on hand, and then we have a couple others, we have the QIP and the HQAF supplemental payments, and if we go into, 2025, it pops up again, bumps up again. We can go back to putting some reserves. But the biggest thing is part of our covenant, if you will, and with Western Alliance is that they're going to look at our days cash on hand in December and June of every year. And they want 60 days cash on hand in December, and they want 100 days cash on hand at the end of June. And so we're gonna have to put all our resources to meeting that covenant. Not that we're gonna spend it and
Steve, to that end, would it be possible to come to the board, maybe our next meeting, and kind of with a list of what those designated board funds were designated for?
you bet.
So we can kind of, because I knew I learned when they were designated, so it'd be nice to kind of look at that, since we may very well want to release some of them and just say, otherwise, like you said, we're spending funds that were designated for something else, unless
Yeah.
we take a formal action to release them.
And maybe we can talk about that in the treasurer's meeting before our next board meeting.
Yeah. And we'll talk more, but simply stated, one piece of it was related to a prior capital budget that we just never expended the funds on that, and obviously now we've created a new capital budget.
Huge.
But the other one was just a rainy day fund, and I think it preceded me,
That one was preceded us too, yeah.
so
So it might be just time to really take a serious look at that.
Yeah,
The
and
rainy day fund, it really, I'm having a little trouble distinguishing that concept from days cash on hand. It just requires board approval, was the only distinction?
it would require the board, like if we had to dip into it.
Yeah.
We require the board, yes, we can go to, this is a thing, we can go to the rainy day fund, no, we're not going to spend it on something that,
and maybe,
Payroll.
what we do
Sour
during this
piece for you.
project is different.
that'd be fun. Excuse me.
I just said maybe what we do during this project is different from what we do once we finish too. Sure.
So what's critical here, obviously, is that, are we good with the enhanced rate range, or do you guys wanna make a motion? Do you wanna
anyone have any issues over what we discussed about? Just let me ask. Gosh. Then I would accept a motion to approve the rate.
The enhanced intergovernmental transfer and corresponding payment to Steve Clark and Associates.
I move what?
Thank you, Steve. Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor, Rich?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Sherry? And I will aye. And then do you want us to also accept the updated cash flow based on that?
Yes, I don't know if this is significant to you guys, but let's talk over the cash flow just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure, of course.
Okay, so I was at the DHLF meetings last week, and we were informed that the rate range intergovernmental transfer is going to be pushed out into November or December. That's not a completely bad thing, but it does create one complication in that, and I'm sorry I didn't have a opportunity to put in the numbers as far as what that means. So that 2 million would slide out into December, and then 5.4 million would slide out into February, so to speak. So what happens, even though we don't have that 2 million going out in September, we're theoretically gonna have negative cash months because we have a loss from operations or whatever it is in September, October, November. We are gonna get some relief because we'll continue to bring down our receivables that, the receivables that are higher than they should be right now. So we'll get a little bit of that, but we're still gonna start eating away a little bit at that $2 million. So what I need to come back to you guys next month and project out what our alternatives are to get us through till the time now when we receive that supplemental payment in February. And we have some good options on that, but we also have some time. And it's gonna affect, I have to talk to Western Alliance because they were really fine with this presentation here. And now because we said, before, maybe that 5.4 goes into January, and if you guys look at December, right at the end of the month, we might, not meet that 60 days. And everyone was fine with that. But now that it's gonna go a little farther out, we'll just have to show it to them. But again, we have some alternatives to get through this.
Might we have an opportunity to get a partial transfer back?
That's certainly one of the options. That's one of
At the beginning of this, you said you learned at your meeting that this got pushed out. I don't understand how it gets pushed out, who makes that decision, how that process goes.
the state,
Okay,
the HCS.
They don't have.
so there's no appeal process.
And one of the things that, these guys are fun. One of the things that they also said is that, okay, so rate range is gonna move out, but this 230,000 for HQAF. We have the similar reoccurrence in 2025, where we would be doing the IGT in March of 2025. Now they want to move it into December, so. It's if you want to be in that program, you take these delays and changes and things. And they've really tried.
Trying to discourage people from fully participating?
No, they just, I don't know. Their goal was, and they tried really hard, was to move rate range back into the fall. So that the two programs in the spring, QIP and HQAF, would, QIP and HQAF would not happen the same time as rate range. It's a real burden. And so I don't know why they pulled HQAF back, that's a head scratcher. Pushing out rate range, they just don't have it, they have to do calculations and. There's a lot of interesting things that go into that, like what's part of the eligible population, you know, can you count this, can you count that? So there's a lot of work for them to do, but still, now that we know we're pretty set, we're gonna look at options and Jerry Wilson suggested that, we have some items in the budget and what we've paid that we certainly could ask for reimbursement for and, last time with rate range, we asked for an advance from both Anthem and California Health and Wellness, and California Health and Wellness came through and gave us an advance. So there's multiple ways we can do this, but I'll put it out for you all to see what we're headed into.
Do you want us to accept this as is, knowing that you'll come back with updated version next month?
Yeah, yes, please.
Then I will accept a motion to accept the cash flow as outlined here.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Ken, second, thank you.
Push it out.
Favor, Rich,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Ken.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, thank you.
Okay.
So that brings us, I think, to our revenue cycle.
Yeah, I Ryan, I sent you. Yes.
Sorry, what I correct?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, I got it.
So. What's in your packet is the July report from R1 and. It demonstrated improvement. The actual. R1, our AR days, which is the most.
So the one-
Objective measure.
Sorry, the one up here on the screen is the more recent.
Yeah,
version.
so. In the July report. You'll see the AR, so July's in the last gray, the middle there. Total AR days, kind of in the middle there. We've gone from 92.7 in May to 92.9. We hit 86.1 in July, and now we're at 83.5 in August through August 24th. And we think that'll continue to come down a little bit. Big things is look at the unbilled AR. That's the stuff that where we've provided the service. We have the charges. We just haven't submitted the claim to the responsible party. We went, May was 23.5, June was 25.5, July was 20, and now August is 14.
That's a great improvement.
Yeah, absolutely, heading to a target of 7, so. Making some immense progress there. Highest collection month, August will be since we went live with Cerner. And what's not reflected here is the long-term care. Which we have now, we've got into a rhythm we hope that maintains or stays. Where partnership is now paying us. So say, here it's August, they paid our July claims. One of the nice things about our new software for long-term care, it's called AmeriCare, is we can drop charges right away and we can drop bills. And so we're billing out that very first week or after a couple days. And so partnership has paid us for almost all of July. So far, we have a few other issues that we're dealing with, but basically our AR days on nursing home are gonna be between 30 and 40. So our total AR days are gonna come down as well. This is just hospital and clinic. This is Cerner AR days. So Brian, I'm gonna make it.
Initial denial rate.
Biggest thing, can you go to the July report? The biggest thing two things are driving the denial, and I'm so sorry Shelley's not here, because I love it when I give these types of answers. Just look at her and she's like, come on. And one of the things is we're sending out more claims. So when you look at the denials for July and even into, August got a little better, is that in July, we had
Which one you want?
the July R1 report, sorry.
Okay.
We had about just under 200,000 in revenue, but we sent out almost 300,000 in claims. So the way that they measure the denial rate is comparing. Why don't you go to, yeah. Go to page 31 or slide 31, whatever it is. Okay, so there's the July denial rate. So total gross charges were 195. We sent out almost 300,000 worth of claims. I mean, obviously, 178 to 300,000 is still an incredibly unacceptable denial rate. So we've been turning off edits in our clearinghouse. They're clearing, if you can go up, Ryan, about 2 slides. So here we go. So here's the claims processing statistics from July, and we're up to 78 with a target of 80. So we're getting really close. What happens though is that the claims will clear the clearinghouse, but they'll hit the payer, and the payer has edits that are or aren't in the clearinghouse. And so I think what it is, it's just that we're finally submitting a lot of claims, and we're seeing how the payer is going to accept or not accept them. And so it's a process. Partnership Health, even though they're great to work with, they have very, very specific things that they want on a claim that's unique to them. And if it's there, the claim's gonna deny.
And the clearinghouse matching what needs to be seen by the payer, whose responsibility is that?
Well, it's a combination of all of us. It's a combination of us to get the right codes on the claim. And then it's a responsibility of R1 to work the edits in the clearinghouse. It's a responsibility of both of us to build the edits in the clearinghouse. And then it's the responsibility of R1 when they hit a denial to come back to us and say, hey, this is denying for this reason or whatever. And quite frankly, we have things like line item denials, and they may be counting the whole claim. We have secondary claim denials. Again, all we're asking for is that they pay what the primary didn't pay. If we get a denial on that, they'll look at the whole claim. We're still really scratching to get this to be the denial rate to be the most meaningful. So, but the positive thing, and I think she gave me the denial rates for. It's weird. Okay. So we'll see when we get the final numbers, this type of analysis for August, I think it's gonna present a little better picture, so. AR days are definitely coming down in August, so. Slow but sure, I guess, is how our both sales. But we are getting there, and again, we think we finally got the right person working with us at R1. That she looks at things the way that we do, and she looks at her own organization like, we can hear her shaking her head sometimes when we're on the phone, when we point things out and we say how things worked, and she's just like, no, that's not supposed to happen. That's not the workflow or whatever it is. and it's showing her contribution is great.
Yeah, just what Gordon knows, Steve and his team spent hours and hours and hours working on this, so it definitely shows. Thank you, Steve, to you and your team.
Yeah, and we're getting, with the server build, I mean, Brian can chime in, but we're really getting down to the nitty gritty on things that don't work. And when we have things that don't work, we're able to react to it quickly or whatever, we talk about it. And
This is, you have to claw your way through this, no matter what. This is just you're constantly clawing your way.
Right, part of what we talked about is as we expand services, that we don't wait till the last minute.
Yeah.
For these orders and charges, we get them built ahead of time, test them out, so when we're actually performing the service, it's ready to go.
That's excellent. Thank you, Brian.
Last piece, it's in here, but I'm gonna jump around and get to it, is that we're seeing our self-pay balance go down. Now that we're sending out statements, people seem to be responding, receiving quite a bit of payments from the patients. We have our share of concerns and questions and disappointments. But we think we're handling them all, you know. We make it our biggest priority. When something comes to us, we pretty much drop it, whatever we're doing, and we look into it, and we continue to use it. I think we talked about this in the treasurer's meeting, that we continue to both have the request and really want the community to work with R1, but at the same time, we want R1 to work with the community. So if they're not, you know, supporting our patients in our community with their service, we need to know. And we brought some things forward, and so we think that's, I mean, the amount of, for the volume of statements that we sent out all at once, the amount of things that hit my desk are pleasantly few, you know. There are definitely some things that do, but you know, we're very pleased. It makes it manageable to handle, you know, to resolve. So anyway.
Thank you. Any other questions for Steve? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And I think we put in there all the items on here that you needed us to accept and approve. Yeah. I believe so. Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, that moves us on to item number 10, Century Healthcare Foundation report. Joseph.
Okay, yes, so it's gonna do an overview. If you guys have questions, you may stop, just let me know. So foundation, one of the key things to pay attention to, we are still waiting on our 501c3. When I checked the IRS website today, they are reviewing applications from December 14th of 2023 right now. So John did put out a message to Kevin Kiley's office to Pam to see if there's anything we can do to push it forward or try and get things going for us. The positive news is that they do backdate to whatever date we applied, which was May 10th. So they do backdate. However, if someone, like if we go through the year, someone files taxes and they don't get that deduction, they have to refile later on to get it as a deduction. So in lieu of this, we've asked auxiliary to take donations for us that need to be given to a 501c3. So some corporations have that requirement where they have to have a 501c3.
Can we do that with PG&E?
So that's one specifically that we are trying to go through auxiliary with. They are going to talk about it further at their next meeting and vote on it and let us know. So all of the other donations right now, we're routing through the healthcare district itself because the healthcare district is a 170C, so it is eligible for tax deductions for donations. So right now we're doing that. We have a couple, so we have people that donate like through their IRAs and things like that. So each one is different. So I'm working with those people on whether they can donate through here or if we have to wait and try and figure out if we can donate through auxiliary.
Kylie's office did assign a caseworker to it.
Yes.
So if they did, I did get feedback
Good.
that they assigned a caseworker to work it up, so.
Yeah, so hopefully that helps, hopefully that, you know, expedites it, gets us to where we can actually just take donations directly. But in the meantime, we're pushing those donations that we can through the hospital. And then the grants and the funds through PG&E, we have those, we regret that. So any questions on that?
Yes.
Okay,
Do we have a budget? Do we have a goal? Can we look at our cash flow and analysis and say, there's a likelihood we will have a certain amount of money that could help us with our cash?
so a goal for this year, for next year, what are you asking?
Whatever.
Right, so for the new bill campaign, we have a goal of 3 million, a stretch of 5. So that is our goal for the new bill campaign. We cannot, as the foundation can't solicit funds yet, but we can solicit them through the healthcare district. So our first appeal letter that's going to go out in the beginning of October will actually use the hospital information to ask for funds. We'll also briefly introduce the foundation and what the foundation is for, and tie the two together and show how the foundation is intended to support the healthcare district. The 3 to 5 million is our goal, and that is, so 3 million is the main goal, and then 5 is the stretch.
As far as projections, though, I don't think we have the data enough or the contact enough to actually project what we might be able to see in the next 5 minutes.
Rough.
Rough, yeah.
Right, so we don't have that data yet, so Blackbaud, we are in our test environment right now, so that's that software that will help us with all of the fundraising and also the analytics, like here's your donor profiles, your donor base, all of that stuff. So that we're in our testing phase right now, but we can't fully launch all of it until we are officially have a 501(c)(3) certification. So we should be able to pull more data like that, because what that system also has in it is it has like the wealth finder information, it has things like that. So with the constituents we've uploaded to it, it can then come back to us and go, okay, here's an estimate of what their donor capacity is for these people that you have in your list. So we should be able to get a rough idea of kind of those people we're going out to and what the capacity is.
And the foundation couldn't use in the software the number associated with the district.
No, because it can't be a 170C for the Blackbaud, it has to be a 501C.
But really the linchpin is that 501(c)(3), so I will be harping on Kevin's office. I gave him the tracking number, I gave him exactly what it was, so I'm really hoping that the caseworker will go straight to him and say, pull this file. And look at it and create an approval. That's the linchpin to a lot of stuff right now.
So what has our past history been as far as annual donations that we get, Steve? Roughly?
For the new build specifically.
No, just generally what we.
Not much.
Okay.
So, yeah, there hasn't been, so I know we started tracking new build donations the past couple of years. And you know, we've raised over 230,000 with the Eleanor Foundation, but then there's.
6 at the pig thing.
Right. So there has been some donations coming in. I do think we have potential. So for example, we had somebody donate already just because we started construction and they wanted to, and they needed to get stuff out. We sent them the check straight to the healthcare district. I had another call this week and we have another $10,000 donation coming in. This is before we've even really introduced the foundation and before we've even started asking.
So one was 25 and one was 10, right?
One was 27 and one was 10.
Right.
So.
This is before even the launch.
Right,
really.
before even like really introducing, so I do think that once we introduce it, and once we start actually asking for these donations, we will.
So where does the 37,000, where does it go?
It
So
goes into a fund.
it's directed to the new build, so both of these donations, so these are going to the hospital, so those can go towards the owner reimbursement of that owner draw, or however it is that Steve needs to use them for the new build. So whatever.
So it can't be used for operations.
No, not if it's donor directed.
So it could reimburse some of the expenses that we've already incurred.
Right,
or
we
pay
should build back our
interest.
cash flow.
Yeah, my concern is cash flow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Arkansas, but I mean, if it goes towards the new building, we've contributed $10 million in owner's contribution. That, I mean, we could select the backfill that even,
Yes.
you know, start backfilling the owner's contribution as part of the bill, because we contributed a lot into this, so. Building back that cash flow may be something that we can definitely focus on as being the primary thing.
And that's something we already discussed with the foundation board, and they are completely in support of that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any other questions?
I had a member of the community asked, they saw the sign of the building. Yeah. They wanted to know, did the foundation purchase the building or?
We are leasing the building, so we did not purchase it.
I told him I was pretty certain it was leased because I didn't see a big pot of money to buy it.
Yeah.
It is leased, we actually did get some questions around that as well.
So was the district give seed money to the foundation?
We did.
We did 300, I think as a
300,000.
loan, $200,000 loan, 3 years, no interest. And
Right.
really
But not upfront.
not upfront,
No.
it just
As the
bleeds.
expenses are incurred.
That's what this shows right here.
Yes, so
financial
right now,
status.
if the foundation needs something, we submit something to the district pays it, and then we're logging it, both Steve and I are tracking it, and then we're making sure we.
Yeah,
got
so
the right thing.
funds used today is 45,644.
Right, that was as of 8/12.
Got it.
And then with that being said, we also have PayPal that has started coming in, so we have a little over 6,500 in PayPal, and those are people that have set up like the recurring $50 or $100 here, things like that, so that is something too that right now is going into the foundation, and then we'll transfer to the district at appropriate times.
Will PayPal give us a lower,
Not until we have,
expense?
not until we have a 501(c)(3 status. They will, but once we have that 501(c)(3 status and we're able to launch Blackbaud, we don't need PayPal because Blackbaud's expense. There's so many more options, it's much lower, it's a much better route for us financially. Hey, other than that, it just, the naming amounts and sponsorship amounts are in there. And the dollar levels, those are all approved by the district board, so. The foundation board, yeah, so, we're just looking for acceptance on those from the district.
It looks like we don't need to take action on this. This is informational
Mhm.
for us, right? Anyone have any questions or comments on?
So on the naming opportunities where you have areas, what would be the recognition for the person? What would be a plaque on the wall in that area?
And then we would work with our signage company to make sure it is
Yeah.
looks good and goes with.
If they want to name the hospital,
Right.
put it actually in the hospital.
Yeah, I can tell a lot about one too. I like the in perpetuity versus 3-year, and I thought that was really.
I think that's a good thing.
Very
Right, and
clever.
then it gives different levels of where, different value amounts.
And these are going out in the mailer level,
These will be.
along with the perspectives, so people can take a look at what the big opportunities might be.
Questions or comments around this, board members?
Nope.
Like a lot of hard work, a lot, yes.
Definitely.
Okay, so that brings us to number 11, new federal access to hospital skilled nursing facility report. Lana, are you still hanging in there?
Alrighty, so report was submitted, but I'm gonna go through it this time just because it's been a while since we've gone through to this detail, to this level of detail, so I'll go through it this time. And let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
So schedule, so certificate of occupancy, based on current, having now gone through the approval, from USDA of the funding and of the contract and us being able to proceed with construction. So we now have the certificate of occupancy scheduled at March of 2027 with 2 months of staff and stock to follow, with an estimated first patient date of May of 2027. So I'll keep that on this report as we move forward, and just indicating that we're tracking toward that at this point in time. Similarly, we have the projected budget of 80.5 million, and that is excluding financing costs and costs of bond issuance and things like that. So that's why my number may be slightly different from perhaps Steve's reporting. So this is only project construction, design, consultant costs and associated contingencies at 80.5 plus the cost of $500,000 for the support services building. And similarly, I'll report monthly on the tracking for that dollar amount.
Have we started working on the RFP for support services building?
We are working on getting the clarification on the electrical to that support services building and finalizing the design documents that we can put out to bid. So that kind of got put on hold because of our contract with HGA and not and just dealing with all the bumps in the road that we were dealing with. So now we can move forward with that. I can report at the next meeting the timing for the support services.
That's good. Thank you, Donna.
Okay. And then we wanted to add an ongoing line item here that is so that it's always before the board of pending ad services and change order requests. So right now we're looking to get to you guys an HGA ad service here shortly. Right now, we're not quite ready to bring that to you. So once we can get that ready to bring to the board, we'll bring it to you guys for your review and approval. All those dollars are not contingency dollars. They're within, they're already anticipated. So it's not anything to be concerned about, I guess is where I'm coming from. Moving on, design. The design is complete, and within that referenced HGA ad service is the electrical engineer of record change that is pending. And I would anticipate that this is going to result in some changes to the design, some interpretations differently. And so I'll continue to report back to the board what those end up being as those come down the pipe, so to speak. The permit, so I've summarized what these increments are in the general summary column, and then want to give an update on the status of all of those. So increment 1, 1, 2, and 3 are still going through HCI review. Increment 4 has been approved and permitted, obviously, since we're proceeding with the work, as you see north of where you are right now. And so increment 1, we are expecting to resubmit at the end of this week or beginning of next week to HCI with responses to plan check comments. And our permit estimate is the beginning of December for that one. For increment 2, we are expecting to hear back from HCI on their comments and resubmit in mid to late September with a permit estimate at the beginning of next year. And increment 3, which is the tenant improvements, that is has been sent back to HCI August 20th with a permit estimated also at the beginning of December. County approval.
Question about this, sorry, Donna. Just from my own understanding about construction and healthcare construction specifically. So as we're looking at different increments for critical access hospital core and shell versus the skilled, I mean, there's parts of those that are gonna be the same, right? Because it's one structure, they're gonna have adjoining walls. So how does that work if we're not reviewing them and approving them at the same time?
They are all under one incremental permit. So these are increments 1 through 4. There actually is an increment 0 that is kind of the umbrella over all of these. And so they, They do have different reviewers for the different increments, which is not ideal, but they look at it as one project with different increments underneath it. So they know they have vision to all the different increments and how they interact with one another.
So we shouldn't expect to get increment 2 comments back that necessitate changes to what we've already done for increment 1.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Thank
wouldn't
you.
expect that.
That's a good question, right?
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on that one, on the increment?
I don't have any. Anyone else? Okay. Go ahead, Donna. Thank you.
Okay, and then county approvals are complete. Peninsula Fire, we're doing, there were, you may recall that we had reported previously that they had done their review. We had what we needed from them, providing the confirmation to HCI that they had done that review and were accepting of the design. They did have some deferred approval items, and so we're working through some of those, but it's not holding anything up. So we'll just continue to report back as to the resolution of those items. Medical equipment planning, we are looking at restarting vendor meetings to pin down more detail on the equipment list. You'll recall that we did vendor meetings for the imaging equipment, for the surgical equipment, for the beds, or the stretchers rather. And so there were some of those vendor meetings happening previously, but we are looking at expanding that effort to include any other items that we see as architecturally significant, just so that we can make sure that we're getting ahead of the curve. And if there are changes to this specified equipment, that we can get any of those changes through HCI sooner than later, and so that we're not bumping up against needing those immediately, needing those approvals immediately, and have done our legwork before the last responsible moment, essentially. So you'll start to see more on those vendor meetings and selecting vendors. And then we're tracking that list of items as early procurement items, as Brady and Judy have been bringing to the board. So these are the ones that we're tracking right now as early procurement. And we are, and to date, we've been bringing those individually to the board. And so it's our hope that we can, at the point that we do this next round of vendor meetings and are ready to start procuring more items, that we can come to the board, as was discussed previously, and say, this is our budget and the associated list of equipment, and asking the board and as well as USDA and Western Alliance, that we can go ahead and start cutting purchase orders within those parameters, if you will. So just a heads up that that's kind of what we're hoping for as we move forward, but not at this moment.
Well, now we have our interim financing, so those items will be paid for out of that bucket, correct?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because I think before we were wanting to approve them individually because we were having to outlay the cash from our operations. So, board members, how do you feel about reviewing as the purchases are made, what they're doing versus budget, rather than approving each item? Or do we have a cap or a dollar amount we want to approve over? Maybe this is something to think about.
Yeah.
At what point would you anticipate these expenditures to start in earnest?
Let me talk with the medical equipment planner and get back to you, because it's really two different things. One is being able to start cutting purchase orders, and then that may or may not include actual expenditure of funds. so let me try and get a better idea from the medical equipment planner on when both of those milestones we can expect to start.
Yeah, and the subgroup that Judy and I, Donna and Trevor and team have. Because it's twofold, it's, yes, the equipment, it's the version of it. We're talking 2020, mid 2027, so. The other part is, we're gonna look at before it gets to the board. What items, what items do we have to have at what point in the project? Because some of them are actually, tied to the construction. And then which ones do we wanna bring and deliver at what time? Because you don't wanna buy something now that we can't use in this building, but around early 2027. That's when we want that equipment, because there's storage, there's service timeframes, sometimes they throw in a couple years on service. So when we bring the list to you, it's just not gonna be a blanket list and a number, it's gonna be very thought out. These are the equipments, this is when it's gonna arrive, we're gonna have a list of each one of the equipments, Judy and I will be able to talk through those to the board. So that you're fully aware of, when it's coming, when we're gonna use it, all of those details.
Some of them will have a longer tail just because they require structural
Yeah, structural,
anchoring.
there's,
So like the CT equipment, all that kind of stuff requires a
Yeah.
much longer tail because as they put it in the room, they've got to. By spec, design the room where the power comes in and everything to that specific device. So some of them are gonna have a long tail, some of them will be 3 months before we actually get our certificate of occupancy.
Well, I would assume some equipment may not have been upgraded in a number of years, and the manufacturer's about ready to come out with a new piece of equipment with new
That's a,
programming and all that, so.
so you wanna get the latest, greatest. Exactly.
The better on that. aspect of
Exactly.
it.
well, in this subgroup that Donna's kind of charging, we're gonna talk about all that stuff, because those are all the questions we had in our
Right.
very first meeting.
Donna, I just had a quick question. Will you be on tomorrow morning's meeting? So now you may have a conflict.
Yes, I will, for the medical equipment, yes, I will.
Okay, great, because we have Linda and I had some questions about that document you sent out in advance related to sterile processing and stairs. So I just wanted to make sure you were gonna be there tomorrow so we could talk through their questions on that.
You got it. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So what he's talking about is there's kind of this green stick clause, right, where we don't get to go up to the next unit, but it's the core unit with any additions, any software upgrades at the time of delivery available to us free. So
We
Yeah.
always do.
free's good.
So Donna, is there anything that you need right now from us in terms of direction for the early procurement?
I don't believe so. Judy, Brady, anything that you feel is, something we need to bring right now?
No, not yet.
Hey, Donna.
Yeah.
Hi, so when we meet with the USDA next week and talk to them, we should add to our list, early procurement and how they look at that.
Definitely.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, we may not want to use the term early procurement.
Well,
Just
Medical advice.
project procurement on medical equipment.
Right.
yeah, medical equipment purchasing.
Okay, just made note of that. Thank you. One other thing of note is that I'm working with the contractor to dial in the construction schedule to a pretty detailed extent. And that an intent from there is to provide it to the other consultants, the signage, the furniture, the medical equipment, commissioning, and have them insert their own dates within that. So just know that all that's going on too. All this is like Sean and Brady were saying, like a lot of it's dependent on the construction schedule for which pieces of equipment need to be delivered early and which places we want after certificate of occupancy. And, so all that will be is part of, as Sean says, making the sausage. So we will continue to work to vet out the best timing for all of those vendors.
Great, thank you.
So briefly on construction, I know Sean and Bree and Steve already touched on this a lot too. But as you can all see, the fence is up, the job site trailer is delivered. We're working on the stormwater pollution prevention and the grading, and we are doing and then from there, what you'll start to see is trenching for utilities, compaction for the road asphalt or road base and road asphalt. So those are the kind of things that you're going to definitely see this year. And then we're aiming, or we're pushing as hard as we can to see how far we can get into the building, a pending permit firstly, within this year, or what needs to be pushed to next spring. So we're just weighing all those circumstances and making sure that we're considering all the factors in making the determination of what needs to get done this year versus start of next year.
Donna, Farmer's Almanac says no snow until January, then we're gonna get clobbered, so.
Oh, okay,
So,
that's a good
got that
thing.
going. Yeah.
Love it.
We'll see.
Some places already had.
I know.
Yeah.
We got a La Nina, so it's in our favor. We'll see what happens. All right, good.
And then just a couple cleanup items. I moved these to the bottom, but just don't want to lose track of them. So Harvest Fund I want to work with the strategic planning team and the GC to GC and architect to determine what makes sense for closing out the harvest plan, as well as what our recommendation to the board is for the existing easement with Wildwood. So we'll be reporting back a recommendation on those in months to come. Financing, as Steve indicated, the loan closed, and we're working to vet out the requisition process with all the parties involved. That started on Tuesday with an internal team meeting, internal being internal to the project. So the general contractor, the architect, the IOR, and then of course our folks here, Steve, myself, Brady, talking about the process. We had another meeting today with USDA and Western Alliance. We have another meeting next Tuesday with USDA and Western Alliance. And so we're just working out all the steps to make that as smooth of a process as we can. And other funding is just as Chelsea reported, we're tracking, they're tracking the philanthropy and any potential grants that we can pursue once the 501c3 is available.
Thank you, Donna. Any other questions for Donna? No comments? Appreciate it, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
For all your work.
Yeah.
Okay, then that leads us to item number 13, which we tabled at the beginning of the meeting. So, I'm sorry, item 12, medical staff report. I apologize for skipping that. We have some initial appointments. Any questions, comments, motion to approve?
I just noticed a lot of psychiatrists there.
Yeah, we got the new
The telepsych.
the new telehealth or telepsych through Coker
So this is
Jessica.
just their schedule. It's all the same company?
Yeah, it's one,
Okay.
and they credential all these folks because they have to chart and so.
Do I have a motion to approve the medical staff appointments? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second,
Thank you. All in favor, Sherry?
Aye.
Ken?
aye.
Rich?
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Okay, now that moves us to item number 13, which we tabled, and so with that, we will move into our closed session. Litigation and.
Did Charlene ever
Okay.
come in? Did she
Yeah,
begin?
she should have, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Recording.
So we are back out of closed session and there are no reportable actions taken during closed session. We have our future board meeting agenda topics, anything anyone else wants to add? Okay, our next regular board meeting will be September 26th, 3 p.m. here in conference room. And meeting is adjourned.
Good meeting, lots of information.